Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victoria Moura, and I'm a Columbia graduate student in the Sustainability Management program at the School of Professional Studies. Up next, we have a debate about AI and climate change. In an era where data centers and artificial intelligence are rapidly transforming industries, they also face challenges related to energy consumption and carbon emissions. So during this panel, we will examine how AI can help industries tackle climate change and discuss innovative strategies to reduce carbon footprint. So please welcome Jen Hofstadter, Chief Product Sustainability Officer at Intel, in a conversation moderated by Bruce Usher, Faculty Director at Columbia Tamer Center for Social Enterprise. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much.
So this is one of the last sessions of a long day. And we talk about AI, which fortunately is a very hot topic to round out the day's discussions. But before we get into AI and climate change and sustainability, Jen, you have a very unusual role at Intel, a unique role. Just start us off by telling us a little bit about your role.
Yeah, thank you so much. My journey, like most of yours, started where there was a market need and a customer demand. So for me, that was back in mid-21, and our customers, the largest hyperscalers, were asking us what our net zero goal was, what our product roadmap and our roadmap to get there was, and how we could partner to move and shape the industry together. That bore a corporate strategy discussion that I pulled together, and that was when I realized Intel was already a leader in sustainability. We had a 30-year history of investing in renewable electricity, focusing on lowering our water usage, upcycling, but the world didn't know about it. So my role that was born out of that conversation was to overhaul our overarching corporate strategy to ensure that top to bottom, that we were singing from the rooftops, just like the conversation about Brazil needs to do a better job marketing what you already have and your resources. So I did that with sustainability. And then on the product side, looking across the corporation, from cloud to network to client, helping to build out a product roadmap strategy. We set our net zero goal in 2040, and then to build out a product roadmap strategy that looks at not only the silicon that we manufacture, the features that can go into it to help to manage energy, the platform that it sits on, how we can look at new green recycled materials to go into those reference platforms, the software, which is a really important part of the stack that contributes to that energy consumption that she was mentioning. All of that through the value of the entire supply chain as well. So we've been on this journey for a couple of years now, and we had a really exciting announcement probably about a year ago to help our supply chain get access to those virtual PPAs of renewable electricity. And it's a project we call Catalyze. We pulled that together with Schneider. And we really think that, one of the things we all need to do, and this is why this conversation about what can Brazil do with data centers, it's going to be important. How do we scale those renewables everywhere so that everybody can be using green electrons?
All right, so thank you for the introduction. Let's focus on AI, and specifically, what are some of the use cases for AI to transform environmental sustainability? And I don't know if you have specific examples. There's one example here at Columbia I'll share in a moment, but examples you have from your work.
Yeah, so the mission I've been on is to make sure that as we're building AI, that it will be built sustainably, but also, to your point, how can we use AI for sustainability and helping our customers to achieve their goals, which is basically every industry on the planet. We know that this generative AI moment has caught us by a storm. On the consumer side, we're able to, have text generation. We can make movies. And the enterprises, a lot of them are just starting to figure out what the use cases will be. Well, machine learning has actually been around for a very long time, and most of the data centers have already been using it to lower their energy use and their carbon footprint. I could give a couple examples from different verticals. I like to relate it to the audience. We all have a cell phone. We're all on this 5G network. So some of our partners, like Deutsche Telekom, have deployed machine learning techniques so they can evaluate the traffic patterns that are happening on their network. And when there is a low demand, they can throttle down the server. And so the energy consumption is really being matched to the performance that is required for us to not lose that call when we're talking to our mom or our brother. That's one example. AI can be used in other ways. One of the ones we were talking about, climate justice earlier, one of the panelists. And there's a great example with, excuse me, Siemens Healthineers. And they have used AI contouring for deploying the therapies, the radioactive therapies to the patient. And this has improved the time. So by using AI, they're able to get a more accurate outline of the organ that needs the therapy. And more importantly, on the equity side, it takes less of the therapist's time. So that's freeing up resources to see more patients, which we know is going to be needed in this coming world. AI can be used in the cloud. We know a lot of companies wherever you are, or even if you're just using your phone, they're using cloud instances. One company, a subsidiary of Intel, used a technology called Granulate, and it basically goes and looks at your workload and how it's utilizing cloud instances, and it recommends a smaller footprint for you. So you're not only going to save money, but you're saving your carbon footprint as well when you're optimizing the workload and the resources that you're using. So that's really one of the big, not only AI can be used for energy efficiency, but resource optimization as well. I'll give one final one. That's a little closer to home. We design chips and we validate them, and we were able to use AI to do some of that testing and that validation. We were able to reduce the amount of test time. So we were able to bring products to market faster, which we're all looking to do. But we were able to reduce the tests, which also means the energy consumption, by 70%. Those are just a few of the use cases of how AI can be deployed in manufacturing, in product development, and in some of the digital infrastructure services that we use today.
Okay, thanks for sharing those examples. I'm going to add one more. I think one of the issues with AI is it's so early in the understand the use cases. There's so many different possibilities. There's a team of climate scientists here at Columbia University that have set up shop just a few feet away above Dinosaur Barbecue. If you don't know Dinosaur, by the way, it's some of the best barbecue in New York City. It's nothing to do with AI.
Check it out.
But on the second floor of that building, there's a group of scientists there from Columbia, and they're doing an initiative called LEAP, which is leading the Earth with artificial intelligence and physics. And what they're doing is it's very simple but very hard. We all know the planet's on a track to warm 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. We all know that's got catastrophic implications. But that's the average. And no one on the planet lives the average. And we all live in different places. We're all going to experience different effects of climate change. So the current projections are mostly average projections or regional projections. What you really need are local projections, right down to, in the US, the county level, for example. What is Upper Manhattan going to be like in 2050, and what are we going to do about it? That's what this initiative is working on above Dinosaur Barbecue, but has to crunch enormous amounts of data and information, and that's where AI comes in. It's using artificial intelligence to be able to take what we know today about the projections and take them down at that local level. So I think all these use cases, it's sort of it's an unending number of possibilities when we
It really is. We're entering this AI era, and just like we couldn't predict what cloud or the internet boom would provide,
yeah.
we can't even really imagine what the world will look like in 20 years. We have some ideas.
We know it'll be warmer. Other than that, we can't predict. So speaking of warmer, let's get to the flip side of this, which is the not so good news about AI, which obviously it's increasing expansion of data centers, more power demand, and the like. How do we think about the environmental cost of AI, and what do we do about that?
Really important question, Bruce. So, I think about the energy, the water, and the waste of data centers. We know that the energy consumption is just projected to continue growing. The data centers, depending on the estimates, are 2.5 of global energy, projected to grow at least double, if not more, over the coming years. I want to put a plug in that the network consumes more than that. So when we think about our mobile phones, that's not in that data center number. So one of the big challenges is energy consumption as we power these massive machines. The water usage, 200 million gallons of water a day for global data centers. It's astounding. So we really have to think about all of the resources that are used. On the waste side, 2 million tons of e-waste per year. So there's a lot of work that needs to happen in this space, but we also, need to think about what are the solutions. I think part of the solution is knowing the impact that, these models are having. A large language model, not even the most current, which has many, many, many more parameters, to train that model alone takes the equivalent of powering 120 homes for a year. To have one inquiry, it's 10 to 15x the energy consumption of your standard internet search. And it would take the same amount of energy to charge your phone from 0 to 30% for a text inquiry. And if you made a video or an image and just had an auto-generated image, that's like powering your cell phone from 0 to 100%. So one thing is...
That's terrifying. So wait a minute. So every time we're using AI, we're basically just off the charts, changing the whole energy demand.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Bruce, how...
So what do we do about it?
Well, I mean, we could change our consumer behavior. Or do you think we can get everyone to not create cat videos?
No, not going to happen. Next solution.
Okay. Well, on the bright side, so the consumer piece is real, right? And we'll talk about some of those innovations coming up. But from the corporate side, where a lot of productivity gains, we're going to have, pharmaceuticals, personalized medicine is going to come through. What I can say about that is we see AI unfolding in a bimodal distribution. So there's these largest models that you hear about, but then a company can't have data that hallucinates. It needs to know for certain that that protein folding molecule is the right one. And so in that other side of the distribution, there's going to be a lot of private domain-specific models, and they're going to be smaller. They're going to be tailored just to that organization's data or that field if they're sharing in a federated way across the universities or the academic institutions. So I think there's hope there that all AI doesn't go exponentially up forever. But then also we're seeing some policy, some legislation happening around the globe, of course, first in Europe. One great example is the Energy Efficiency Directive. So where they're really looking at a data center and saying, I want to see all of these different attributes of how you're consuming energy from the device level, the chip level, all the way out. We need to get to utilization as well. So those are some of the things that can help, but there'll be more.
And those are things that are definitely going to help. I mean, here at Columbia, we're creating our own smaller AI networks and the like. But obviously, the way to really solve this problem is to power our data centers, power all AI use, all our cat videos with renewable energy. Right? On the power side, if we can generate it within renewables, that's going to solve a lot of our emissions problem. So let's switch in the time we have remaining time to talk about Brazil. Mm-hmm. It is a Brazil conference. And Brazil, as everyone in this room knows, has come up already in the conferences, is unique in the sense that among the G20, 90%, it's the only country where 90% of its energy is from renewable sources. So we've got a good news here. We've got a renewable source of power, and its potential to grow. What's potential for Brazil to be siting more data centers, for more of the AI power needs to be based in Brazil or powered by clean Brazilian energy?
Yeah, I was just at a conference last week in Europe, and there was discussion of moving data centers out of locations where there is not renewable electricity. So that alone, just even shifting locations, sunsetting old data centers, should demonstrate the opportunity that exists for this room and this set of investors to have AI, new AI data centers in Brazil to take advantage of that. One of the things about this workload is it's similar to HPC. So if you're training that very large model that consumes the most energy, it often doesn't need to be running at the same time as you're using it. And you're doing the inferencing, you're generating your new cat video, dancing at the Brazil Climate Summit. So that's good news. What that means is that these AI factories can be remote from the population centers. So around the globe, we're starting to see developers think about what might a futuristic industrial hub look like, where there's the renewable energy, there is other manufacturing, that maybe it's the supply chain that is feeding some of those raw materials into the data center. So there's really a virtuous cycle. So I think Brazil's got a lot of opportunity. There's clearly a lot of interest, especially from the last panel here, on investing in the clean tech and in Brazil. I think, what Brazil could do is a convening like this around data centers, just like I was at last week. I don't recall meeting anyone from South America, even though it was a global conference. It was in France. It's pretty far away. But you convene the real estate developers, right? The renewable energy providers, the customers. Who are the off-takers for that would be needing this? Is the land suitable? Understanding, what those needs look like. I think this is a real opportunity for Brazil, but you need to be cognizant of the impact of the resources. So we didn't talk about the innovations in AI. So you'll want that land to have water, but there are newer technologies that can help you get to a zero water data center. That's some of the investment that we need to have as we're moving forward into the sustainable AI future.
And so just to be clear, because I think this is a very important point, AI, while it's very power hungry, and that's a big negative, it does have the advantage, at least so far, most use cases, latency doesn't matter. So unlike, say, power needs for financial trading, financial markets, electronic trading, latency is an extremely important factor, and so you've got to site your data centers really close to the customer. When it comes to AI, whether it's a cat video or just writing an essay for Columbia University in your courses, an extra few seconds of latency doesn't matter. So we could site a lot more data centers in Brazil for customers in Europe, in Asia, in North America, right?
And I hear there's some subterranean fiber going between South America and Italy. Right. There's more being laid every day. So having access to that network connection is critical for the developer side as well.
Okay. And so we only just have a couple minutes left to wrap up, but for a Brazilian audience, whether you're in business in Brazil or government policy, anything, what steps should be taken to sort of capture this opportunity? And you mentioned some of the hurdles. We need to be engaging more internationally. Other suggestions on that front?
Well, the biggest customers obviously need to be in conversation with them, right? There's a large number, but there's also the colo hosters that are the developers, and they're the ones providing that infrastructure. So I think having conversations with some of those colocation providers is really critical. I think engaging with academia to figure out, if we build these giant AI factories in Brazil, what problems could we solve if we had access to a ton of compute to help advance the state of your farming, to increase yields, to increase maybe it's the yield or the production of the biofuels that were talked about. So I think there's some really unique, virtuous cycle opportunities here for Brazil and with AI in the backyard.
Right, in the remaining minute or so we have, any final words of advice from, you've been working on sustainability with Intel for a number of years. Intel's been working on this issue for a number of years. You're a global company. Final words of advice for the audience.
I would say, while the insatiable demand for compute will continue this is our digital society that we live in, and it will help advance the state of our society, right? Whether from healthcare, medicine, finding new materials, finding those green materials. Also know that there's innovations that come with that AI. By having AI generating the code or reviewing your software code, it can lower the energy consumption by 20% and just say, hey, Bruce, I suggest you replace this. So there's a lot of positive benefits that are going to come, and the thought leaders in this space are really already innovating. They're innovating in ways that will lower that energy consumption of those large language models by a fifth, a tenth, eventually to be able to fit a personalized large language model on our phones. So, I don't want to scare everyone. There will be a continuous need, but Brazil really has a very unique opportunity with the marrying of your natural resources, your renewable energy, and this moment with AI, and I look forward to seeing what you do with it.
Please join me in thanking Jen Hufstiller.